Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams, Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans. Also going to talk about the changing of the guard in terms of coaching with some really great coaches, some Hall of Fame coaches that have either decided to retire or again are no longer with their teams. We'll get into all of that today. And joining us on the program, an award-winning journalist, an accomplished author, and one of the best we have in the city covering sports, and again, a guy that gives us his time anytime I call. Les East of CrestySports.com, Saturday Down South, and so much more. Les, welcome to the show. Looking rather dapper as always, my friend.
Well, thank you. A little Mardi Gras, taste of Mardi Gras as we enter the Mardi Gras season early this year. Looking forward to it.
Maybe next time you come to Ascot?
You know, there was discussion of an Ascot today. Did not happen.
Now,
but it may be
we've done that before, right? I think
we have done the Ascot before, and I have a feeling, especially with you putting it out there publicly.
There you go.
We're going to have an Ascot in the future.
I may do the Ascot one day as well. Okay, I think I did it when I was 13 years old. Went to one of those parties when I was a kid, you know, back in the 70s, with the big high platform shoes.
We'll pick a special day, and it will be Ascot Day.
Ascot Day,
and we'll both do it. Maybe if the Pelicans win the NBA title or something.
That's okay, and I may have to go purchase that Ascot because I don't have one.
I'll lend you one.
There you go. Good. Tell us about everything you're involved in, my friend, and of course your great book as well.
Thanks, Eric. CrescentCitySports.com. Been writing a lot about the Saints. We'll be writing more about the Pelicans coming up now that they take center stage. Saturday Down South, I write about LSU. And men's basketball looks like they're a little bit improved. The women are outstanding once again. So good stuff going on in Baton Rouge, as well as a lot of off-season news in football and but baseball is off the charts. So a lot of stuff there for Saturday Down South. The book is called Donkeys, Elephants, and Giraffes. It's a political novel. It's timely, especially with the season we're entering, and it's available at all the online platforms, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, etc.
I'm going to take a little bit of a left turn here today from what we normally do on this program, and I want to start with, again, talking about the coaches and the changing of the guard in the NFL and college football with losing, again, some outstanding coaches, some Hall of Fame coaches. Mike Vrabel was fired from Tennessee. He looks like the best coach on the market right now. But Pete Carroll, again, with his success in the collegiate game and also, again, with the Seattle Seahawks, was relieved of his duties. Bill Belichick this morning on a mutual agreement with the Patriots. They're going their separate ways. And of course, Nick Saban yesterday announced that he is retiring and will no longer be coaching at the University of Alabama. All right, first of all, let's talk about legacy, and again, let's talk Belichick and also Saban and what they meant to their games. And look, there's a lot of people in Louisiana still upset with Nick Saban. I was never one. Okay, he resurrected the program. He put the program back on the map. He really was the impetus for, again, where LSU is today. I was always grateful for what he did. And then he went on and resurrected again what was once the greatest program in college football in Alabama. Your thoughts on the legacy of Nick Saban?
Well, I couldn't agree more with you about him vis-a-vis LSU. Okay, he brought them their first national championship in 45 years, I believe it was, but more importantly, he took it from one of its lowest points ever and elevated it not only to a national championship, but he laid a foundation that allowed two other coaches to win a national championship. Right. It didn't bottom out the way it could have at the end of the Orgeron era because of the foundation Saban had left behind, and now they have another coach who I think has a chance to win another national championship in the not-too-distant future. That's the genesis of that is all Nick Saban. Nick Saban did not choose Alabama over LSU. This gets misunderstood too often.
That's right.
He wanted to try it in the NFL. It didn't work out. He went looking for a job. Alabama was there. LSU wasn't. I would hope, and this is difficult when he's the head coach at Alabama, but now that he's not the head coach at Alabama, I would hope that LSU fans and all football fans in Louisiana would have nothing but positive feelings toward Nick Saban because he's earned it. Probably the best coach in the history of college football, and he became that at LSU.
Yes.
It wasn't like he was at Michigan State and everybody said, oh my God, he's going to be the greatest of all time. He went to LSU and it was the marriage of an ascending coach and a university that was committed to upgrading the infrastructure at his demand. And that came together and he became what he could be and couldn't have been at Michigan State.
Yes.
And so that was a watershed moment for Nick Saban and for LSU, and there should be nothing but positive feelings about that.
Since LSU is becoming the university that likes to put up statues, does he deserve one? Based on what he did?
Boy, that would be a tough sell.
I mean, that is a tough sell, considering he's got one in Alabama. Because how many times again he went and resurrected that program? Does he deserve one at LSU?
I would think that maybe there's a better way to acknowledge his contributions. He was there, 5 years? 5 years. I'm not sure that's the legacy for a coach to get a statue, and I'm not sure how that would be received. So I would look for a more appropriate way to do it. But man, we already talked about everything he did.
Let's talk Belichick. Both Saban and Belichick, as you and I were talking about before the show, they're in their 70s. Belichick looks like he wants to continue to coach, where again, Saban looks like he wants to retire. But before we go to Belichick, I do want to ask you one question. I talked about this yesterday on the radio show about Saban, and pardon me, folks, for reverting back. I think one of the reasons why he's moving on is the changing times in college football and college athletics. I think the NIL, I think the transfer portal. It reminds me a lot of Jim Finks when the NFL went to Plan B and ultimately free agency, where again he was old school. He did things the old school way and really just could not deal with again not the new breed of athlete, because Saban has been able to overcome that for in every generation, but again, having a kid jump in a transfer portal after a year, having to compete with other schools that have more money than he does at Alabama. How much do you think that played into this?
I think that was the single biggest factor in the timing.
Okay.
And here's the thing, Nick Saban, as much as he enjoys winning championships, I think the joy he gets from football, and I know he looks like a joyless soul a lot of the time, but the joy that he gets is he goes out and he finds his guys in high school. He brings them in. He has a vision, to use a Sean Payton term, for that player. He has that player for 4 or 5 years, helps them become the best version of themselves, as a player and a person that they can be so they can go on and succeed. And he gets great enjoyment out of doing that and keeping his guys for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Now there's just a turnstile, and guys are coming and going, and he may have them for 2 years, he may have them and lose them, he may have to go out and get somebody for 1 year to replace somebody, and I think that takes a lot of that joy away from it for him, and I don't think there's any question that it accelerated his decision to retire.
That's why I think Kirby Smart is considering Atlanta as well. I think they look at the landscape of college football and they realize how difficult it is to stay on top now with the transfer portal. We're unknown going into this now new playoff format, and I think that's one of the reasons why you see coaches that have been successful maybe peaking at the NFL a little bit.
I think that's definitely going to be a consideration for a lot of coaches. It's just, and it's a brave new world. I mean, we still don't know how it's all going to shake out. I think the NCAA has a sense of how out of control it is getting, and they're going to try and rein it in, but I don't know how much they can do to rein it in.
I would say this. This is my opinion, okay? And this is what I would do. I believe that players should have the opportunity to move. But again, I would allow one free move. In other words, you want to transfer out? Then you can transfer out one time. After that, you got to sit out a year. You can't be transferring every single year. The other thing I would do is if a head coach that they recruited you moved on to another school, you have the opportunity to transfer immediately.
Right.
Okay? Because again, you went to that school in some cases for that coach, you have a chance to be able to transfer immediately. But there's got to be some controls on it right now because it's the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but there have been recent cases, and I think of Jalen Cook at LSU basketball, where a two-time transfer, well, you need a waiver in order to become eligible right away. So they sit and they get the waiver in like every case. So it's like they sort of had that rule for a double transfer, and yet it seems like
I think it's
every waiver is granted.
I think it's over now because of the court case. I don't think the NCAA is going to come after people that want the players that want to transfer twice now.
Well, they may. Again, that may be a situation where they're forced to do it a certain way. But yeah, it is making the college game less attractive to head coaches, and it's making it less attractive.
I would agree.
And to me, as a spectator,
for a lot lot of fans, it's tough. All right, let's talk Belichick. His legacy in the NFL, as what some people believe, maybe the greatest coach of all time, college or pro. But again, as a pro coach, and his thirst to continue to coach.
Yeah, I think he definitely wants to continue to coach, and I think he can still be successful in the right situation. I don't think he's a guy who's going to come in and rebuild a team from the ground up. As far as his legacy, that's a really tricky one because he's undoubtedly one of the handful of best coaches in the history of the NFL. If he gets another opportunity, he's probably going to become the winningest coach all time. He's already the third coach, I believe, to win 300. But there's the Brady thing.
That's right.
You know, all of his greatest success happened with Tom Brady, and there's a stark contrast before and after Brady. He still was good. He still was successful. There's no doubt. But how much did Brady elevate him? And maybe Brady would have elevated somebody else just as much. We don't know. So it's complicated to say he's the best of all time. You look at the record and you say he's the most successful head coach of all time. I would say that because of the Super Bowls. But it's so hard to factor in how much Brady elevated him. And I think he elevated Brady as well. So separating those two is something you can't do. So I'm hesitant to declare him the greatest of all time, but he's unquestionably in the conversation.
Much like Sean Payton moving on to Denver, again, after Breeze. Is this a situation with Belichick now where, again, he wants to prove to everybody, I can do it without Brady?
You know, I don't know that he's that kind of guy. I think he's a guy, he's a football version of a gym rat. He wants to get a team, he wants to go to practice, he wants to prepare it, and he wants to take a group of guys and make them the best team he can make them. I don't think he worries about legacy and records. The key to me, I think, is what about control of the front office. Is he willing to let somebody else pick the players for him? I don't think so.
Well, what tree does he come from? The Parcells
tree. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so he wants to shop for the groceries and cook them, right?
Right. Oh, no question. Now, I could see an ownership wanting to say, Bill, we want you to coach the team, but let's let somebody else get you the players because we know you can make them as good as they can be. I don't know that he would go for that.
I don't think he's going for
But I think if he gets the right situation where he can buy the groceries and do the cooking, just like he said, I think he would love to do it, and I think he would just want to go out and coach day after day after day, because I think that's what he enjoys.
Let's talk Pete Carroll, because there was an original report he was going to move up into the front office, but now there are reports that he may be interested in coming back and coaching somewhere else. Your thoughts? And your thoughts on his legacy as a college and pro coach?
Well, it's so interesting that he and Belichick depart on the 2 days apart, because they are the exact opposites of one another. Because Pete Carroll, I tweeted about this yesterday, Pete Carroll, in a business where so many coaches seem stressed out and miserable, and Exhibit A is Bill Belichick.
Right.
Pete Carroll always looks like he's having the time of his life. He is so happy every day that he's around a football team, and that has had a positive effect on his teams in college and the NFL.
Yes.
And he has not lost that enthusiasm. Yeah, he's 72 or whatever, but he might as well be 45.
I was going to say the same thing.
So, yeah, I think he wants to coach again. I think somebody would be wise to give him that opportunity, and I think he'll succeed if he does get and receive that opportunity.
Vrabel doesn't have the legacy of these guys, but he is looked at as maybe the best coach on the market right now.
Well, that's partly due to youth. He's got a longer future, presumably, as a head coach, but also because he's a very good coach. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and I have a hard time imagining him not succeeding Belichick at New England.
That's what everybody believes.
That's such a natural, for myriad
Which is one of the reasons why, maybe again, why Belichick is out the door today.
Yeah, that may well be the case, that the Vrabel opportunity hastened the decision there. It all makes sense. So I would assume Vrabel's going to be off the market here very soon. But yeah, he is very attractive because he's a very good coach, has proven it over many years, but also because he is he's somebody who could be your head coach for an extended period of time.
All right, let me throw a hypothetical to you. You know, I love these. You're Mickey Loomis. You're sitting in your office this morning, and again, you know Pete Carroll was released a couple days ago. Vrabel is gone from Tennessee. Belichick is available, and even Nick Saban, who again failed in the NFL, is available. Do you pick up the phone? And the reason why I say do you pick up the phone is, if you don't pick up the phone, Tampa's picking up the phone, Atlanta's picking up the phone, and Carolina's picking up the phone. So do you pick up the phone to try to make sure that Atlanta, Carolina, and Tampa don't end up with one of these legacy coaches? Or again, a guy like Vrabel.
Well, first off, you think Tampa's firing a three-time division champion head coach?
If Belichick wants to come, absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll see if they pick up the phone. No, that's a very good question. Of the four, the one I would most likely pick up the phone for would be Pete Carroll. Belichick, again, I just see him as sort of a caretaker. I just don't think that's a real fit here. He would. I just don't see that working at this point in his life. There may be another place where you have a championship like the Chargers. Where you have the team
ready-made quarterback too.
Yeah, we need exactly. So you get rid of the Brady question to some degree. So we just need that coach to get us over the hump. The Saints aren't at that level. The Saints need more than that to get over the hump. So I don't think Belichick makes a lot of sense. Vrabel, I assume, is going to New England. Saban, I think, has made up his mind. I don't think he would have said that. Pete Carroll, you bring him in here with that enthusiasm, with that ability to coach, with that gravitas. Yeah, I would pick up the phone and get a feeler on whether he would be interested.
Here's why I don't think any of those coaches will be coaching in New Orleans. Number one, obviously they're probably not firing Dennis Allen, but none of these coaches are coming into a situation where you have $315 million in contracts on the books, where you're $76 million over the cap, where again you got minimal draft picks this year, and oh, by the way, you're in a situation where you've been kicking the can down the road so much that, again, you've already, like, for instance, as we were talking about before the show today, Lattimore's contract, the renegotiation of his deal, kicks his bonus to 2028. Possibility of maybe getting rid of a Michael Thomas, that's $17 million in dead money. Maybe trading a Kamara, that's another $17 million in dead money. Lattimore's got $45 million in dead money. So I don't think this is an attractive situation to someone that has options in terms of going, in terms of coaching. A young coach who's looking for their first opportunity would jump at it. But a coach with opportunities, I don't think would look at New Orleans because of the cap situation and the lack of draft picks and an aging roster.
Well, that's certainly something they would have to take into account. And like I said before, I think Carroll would be the one guy that I would approach if I were the Saints. But yeah, I don't think they're likely, because those guys are probably going to have multiple suitors.
Yes.
And so that's when you get into what you just laid out. They start doing the tail of the tape. And the Saints aren't going to fare real well in terms of roster maintenance and development because of the financials. So I think they would have a hard time winning any competition to get any of those coaches.
Right. Which is why, what I discussed with you before we came on the program today, why I think one of the reasons why they're keeping Dennis Allen. They understand that, again, that if this thing fails next year, they'll have a top 10 pick, top 5 pick. He will be the guy that walks the plank. And at that point, if you're divesting yourself of these players and you're getting even deeper into being cap strapped, a new coach that comes in, especially a new up and coming coach, would jump at the opportunity. But the fall guy is Dennis Allen.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and there's a certain logic to that, but I'm not sure that's the way.
You don't feel that way. That's why I brought it up.
I don't think that's the way they go about these decisions. And we'll talk about Dennis Allen specifically. I think they felt like he was the right guy for continuity's sake, primarily. First year did not go well, but they felt like that was not enough of a sample size to make a change. They were looking for improvement in year 2. They got improvement in year 2, not only with 2 more wins, but from the middle of the season to the end of the season. And so 9-8, tied for the best record in the division, and lost the playoffs only because of 3 tiebreakers. So I think now they're not looking beyond 2024. They're looking at, okay, if we continue that improvement that we saw this year, we should be in the playoffs next year, probably as a division champ, with a chance to advance. So we're not going to make a change now because I think we're headed in that direction. If they don't get to that point, then next year we're having a different conversation probably. But I think their decision to bring him back and stay the course, so to speak, I think is based strictly on where they see the context of 2024 based on the last 2 years.
Well, Will's going to kill me because we're going to get into we're going to go deep into this for a few minutes. I want to play devil's advocate if I could. Saints had the easiest schedule in the NFL. Could only squeeze out 9 wins. They played versus the most inexperienced quarterbacks in the NFL. Could only win 9 games. They beat 1 team with a winning record, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Two. Indianapolis.
Okay, Indianapolis. Okay, you got me on that. Okay, Indianapolis. They lost to Green Bay up in week 3, up 17, dominating till the 4th quarter, and of course New Orleans is out. How can you ignore how poorly coached this team was throughout the season? They got out schemed most weeks. They were ineffective in terms of their adjustments. And in more cases than not, again, from a personnel standpoint, they made personnel mistakes. With all that stacked up, and if you're not an organization that feels that almost kind of moves at a very slow pace in terms of making decisions on coaches, how are you not looking at saying, okay, it's time to make a change? How do you square this with the season ticket holders and the fan base that, man, we were +2 this year, but it was against the worst schedule in the NFL. Okay, how do you square that with them that they'll continue to support the team and buy the tickets?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Right, that's why I told Will I knew we were going down a rabbit hole here.
Two things, and if I forget, remind me about the season ticket holders.
Okay,
I'll get to that in a second.
Right now.
The first thing is you don't ignore the shortcomings. You don't ignore the good stuff. You factor in the good stuff and the bad stuff.
So the good stuff, winning 4 of the last 5.
Winning 4 of the last 5, fixing a lot of stuff, being one of the worst teams in the NFL in red zone offense, making the decision to devote more practice time to red zone offense and becoming one of the best red zone offenses in the NFL after that decision was made.
Which I felt they should have been at the beginning of the season, to be honest with you.
Well, it's always a double-edged sword. Is if you fix a problem, that's good, but let's look at why the problem came about in the first place. All of that has to be factored in, and it's all legitimate. But you and I grew up with the Saints in the early days.
Yes, we did.
And you could look at those teams and you could say, they are clueless. They have no players, but they're also clueless. Clueless teams and coaches don't win 4 of their last 5 after they're 5 and 7. They don't fix problems like the red zone offense and the penalty situation that they had earlier in the year. And other issues, they got better. That this is not the best coaching staff in the NFL. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when you take everything into account and look at the progress they made within the season and from last season to this season, I think on balance their determination is, and I'm not disagreeing with it, is that they've seen enough to believe that this guy deserves a 3rd season because they might be headed in the right direction. Now, if they went 9-8 against the 14th easiest schedule in the NFL, would everybody be saying keep Dennis Allen? No, they wouldn't. They would ignore the strength of schedule. That's just something to latch onto to try and strengthen a predetermined side of the case. Right. But you win the games as they're presented to you. Okay, when they beat a 4-5 team at the time, does that mean they would have lost to a 6-3 team if they played them at the time? That's not a damning thing. It's something. It's a statistic to factor into a complex equation. So, I think on balance, they made a decision that they're headed in the right direction. They're hopeful next year is better, but they feel a sense of urgency for it to be much better, and I don't disagree with that.
You had me until you went to the math part. When you did the math, the equation stuff,
which is hard to believe because I'm not good at math. But the season ticket holders,
go ahead.
The elephant in the room is the Detroit game, when the lower bowl was filled with Detroit fans. Those are the most loyal Saints fans, the season ticket holders who are buying the most expensive seats or saying, I would rather sell this than go to the game. Okay? Now, there is nothing written in stone that says the Saints have to sell out every season on season ticket sales. It happened in 2006 for a variety of reasons we all know, and it has continued since then pretty much unthreatened.
Well, it happened because they threatened to move the team. It continued because they had success under Peyton.
And now that could very easily change, and that Detroit game especially indicated that we might be at a tipping point. And if you come to the conclusion that you have alienated your customers to that degree that they are no longer going to be your customers unless you replace the manager, the store manager, the restaurant manager, then that suddenly leaps to the top of the list of considerations. I think they've come to the conclusion that that is not yet a crisis, but that could very easily become a crisis in the next 12 months. That's why I think they feel an even greater sense of urgency to be successful in 2024. And when I say success, I don't mean let's go out and win the worst division in the NFL and lose the first game. It's win the division with an impressive record and advance in the playoffs. And so I think this is a crossroads year for them, but I don't disagree with their decision to stay the course, so to speak?
Renewals haven't gone out yet.
Yep.
And I just look at the 4 coaches that are out there right now. We just discussed. I mean, at some, again, Ben Johnson's out there. The people are talking about the next great offensive genius. I mean, if you don't make a move this year, and it's too late by the time the season ticket rules go out, because again, at that point, coaches are snapped up. The decision has to be made now. There's also cultural issues, which I want to talk about when we get back. There's the Gruden factor here as well I want to talk about when we get back. So let's grab a break here. Let's hear from my underwriters, and then we come back, we'll dive a little deep diver into this. We'll also talk LSU. We'll talk Tulane. Pelicans are playing great basketball right now. We'll get into that as well. Les Seas, CrestCitySports.com, Saturday Down South, accomplished author, and one of the best we have in the state is with us. I'm Eric Asher. Don't move.
Air conditioning, heating, and refrigeration has been family owned and operated since 1989. Burkhardt has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhardt's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhardt's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhardt's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Acadian Custom Shutters is locally owned and operated, specializing in interior and exterior shutters and window coverings, as well as awnings and patio covers. Acadian Custom Shutters offers American products with personal service and workmanship, serving the South Shore, North Shore, and Mississippi Gulf Coast. More information is available at 985-893-3119 or AcadianCustomShutters.com.
Hi, welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Les Seas is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. All right, I have not heard one fan, radio show, friend, acquaintance, somebody I see on the street, social media, not one person that says Dennis Allen needs to return. And again, look, I'm in the opinion business, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, again, people are going to come up and ask for my opinion all the time. They're going to give me their opinion as well. You get the same thing, Les, when you walk into a restaurant or into a store. Somebody comes up to you to recognize you, want to know what's going on. Have you heard one fan come up and say, "Man, they got to keep Dennis Allen one more year because I think he can put us over the top"? How do you justify that with again, when it looks as though the fan base is saying, we want to change?
Well, that's something that has to be taken into consideration. But there are two aspects to this. People who speak with their mouths, mm-hmm. and by extension their social media accounts, yes. and all this stuff. And there are people who speak with their pocketbook. Right. And that gets back to what we were talking about before the break. Why I wanted to bring this back up. They start speaking with their pocketbooks, mm-hmm. and not renewing season tickets, then that has to be paid attention to. When people are unhappy with a coach they weren't happy with in the beginning, they weren't happy with at the end of last year, mm-hmm. and they didn't go to the playoffs, they haven't been in the playoffs in the last 3 seasons. Yeah, the most vocal ones, and I think the majority of those, vocal and non-vocal, are unhappy and they're looking for somebody to blame. That's not surprising. You can make a case for that. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you can't make a case for a coaching change. I'm just saying I understand the calculation I believe they made, and I don't disagree with it.
Okay. Jeff Duncan wrote about culture today in the Picayune. One of the reasons why Dennis Allen was brought in was continuity, mm-hmm. the culture, the veteran team. We don't have to miss with anything, because again, we can carry over the Peyton Breeze years into that. There is obviously, again, as Jeff said in his article today, a splintering of the culture. It happened after the 3-game losing streak, when players felt that again, Derek Carr was not being held accountable. I want to go back to last year's Tampa game with Jameis Winston. Obviously injured after the Atlanta game in the first game of the season, right? Again, he plays injured for a couple weeks. Most people, myself included, didn't think he should have played in that Tampa game. He played. He was horrible. Tampa beat the Saints. They beat the brakes off the Saints. Let's fast forward one more year. Well, now, from that point, Jameis Winston doesn't see the field anymore. Andy Dalton does. Andy Dalton's your quarterback. Even though when he was healthy, you're not supposed to lose your job due to injury. Okay, that ended up happening. Fast forward this year, Carr is hurt. He goes in the Tampa game. He blows the Tampa game for you, right? You're in a same situation. Carr continues to be able to play injured. You send Jameis Winston out, almost an embarrassing move, which I've never seen in the NFL before, to do kneel downs for you. And again, multiple times. It's embarrassing. It is. Embarrasses, again, a veteran quarterback. He is beloved in the locker room. They had the victory formation touchdown. Everybody's got their own opinion on it. Some people believe, again, that Winston is out of here, and that was Winston saying, hey, coach, you know what? This is me doing what I want to do. We know now this was a team decision, supposedly. I think that, this is my opinion, outside looking in, you're in the locker room, I'm not. That maybe the splintering of the culture, maybe the loss of the culture has to do with, again, the way players were handled, specifically the quarterback. Your thoughts? You're there, I'm not.
I agree, and I said this last year probably on this show, that I think Jameis Winston was treated unfairly last season. I think he deserved the opportunity to come back and play when he was healthy enough to play, and especially since his replacement was not setting the world on fire. But nonetheless, he had played well. He only lost a job because of injury. When you're healthy enough to play, you go play again. So I think he was treated unfairly. I think a lot of this victory formation, first of all, team decision. How did that happen? Tyrann Mathieu picks off the pass, runs it down to the half-yard line. Everybody thinks he's going to score. They got 30 seconds to go out on the field and run a play. Did they gather up everybody, including the guys in sweatpants,
No.
and say, okay, we're voting. Are we going to get Jamal the touchdown or not?
Right.
The coach wants us to do the sportsmanlike thing and kneel down, but we want to get Jamal a touchdown. Can we get a show of hands? They don't have time to do that. They get in the huddle, Jameis and maybe a couple of other players say, come on, let's get Jamal a touchdown. He had 17 touchdowns last year.
But they did ask the coach before they went on the field.
They asked him, and he said the right thing. He said no.
Right.
And they go out, and in a split second, in an emotional moment, they decide, let's get our teammate and our buddy a touchdown. It's been a tough year for him. Let's get him a touchdown. And they chose to disrespect their head coach's decision.
Right.
The NFL, the game of football, the Atlanta Falcons, that's on the players.
Right. Does that happen under Peyton?
And that was the first thing I thought of when I heard the explanation. I don't know. My inclination is to say no, but it depends. Is there a quarterback?
Well, if it's Breeze and does it.
Well, Breeze would not have done it.
No, Breeze would have lined up mano a mano out of the victory formation and went for it if they're going to do that.
Absolutely. If they were going to do it.
Right.
Breeze would have come over. Peyton would have said, kneel down. And he wouldn't have gotten the words out of his mouth.
Right.
And Breeze would have said, we're kneeling down. And that would have been taken care of. So, but this isn't, Peyton and Breeze are gone.
Right. Agreed.
But that's on the players.
Right. Okay. I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But for the players to feel empowered to do that.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is this was made in a split second in the huddle. I mean, they may have talked about it on the sidelines if we get a chance, but I don't think this is not a plot against the head coach.
I don't either. Look, I don't think that this was a byproduct of the culture trying to get him fired. Okay, I don't think that,
Right.
but I do think that there are players in that locker room who have big contracts, who are veterans, who have, again, either said it between the lines or said it all season long. And you were in that locker room. You heard Cam Jordan at the end of the season. You heard Kamara, what he has said. You've heard Lattimore, what he said. And Michael Thomas has said it with his tweets.
Well, the last thing I'll say on this is if that were a problematic lack of respect for Dennis Allen. Okay, Dennis Allen isn't Vince Lombardi.
Agreed.
Guys don't quake in their boots when he walks into the locker room, okay?
No.
But that's true of a lot of coaches, and many of whom are successful. But if they had a problematic lack of respect for the head coach, they never would have gotten from 5-7 to 9-8. They kept going to work, they kept going to meetings, they kept following the game plan, and they got better. A lack of respect, you would have seen Mike Ditka's team.
Les, I'm going to be a devil's advocate here, and I'm going to say they got veteran players on this team that, again, came from that Breeze Payton culture. They're in the twilight of their careers. They're trying to get to a playoff. They're trying to get to a Super Bowl. And these guys, again, have too much pride, and they came together. And despite, again, bad coaching, bad personnel moves, that they were able to pull it together and get it together. Now, look, coaches call the plays. I think play action helped a lot on the offense. They finally figured out how to lane discipline on defense. Okay, there were a lot of things that happened schematically, again, that changed. But I think a lot of this was players playing for each other. That's my opinion. You're there. You're closer than I am. Your thoughts?
Didn't they play for each other in the first 12 games? The players didn't change. Presumably, their veteran savvy didn't change. What changed is the coaches made adjustments, such as the red zone offense and other things, and they got better because the only thing they could change was how they approach game plans and strategy and personnel usage. The players, if the players were 4-1 players the entire season, why were they 5-7?
What do you think happened in that meeting with Mickey Loomis, which is unprecedented? I can't remember Mickey Loomis, even in the Hasselt era when I was covering the team with you, going in and talking to the players.
No, I'm not aware of that happening. I think they sensed that this was a volatile, potentially, situation because of the way the game against the Falcons ended, because of problems they've had during the last 2 seasons, getting it right, not getting it right until it was too late to make a difference, and perhaps an issue with Jameis Winston over how he was treated last year.
Right.
I think there was just a lot of noise going on around the locker room, and the thing that they prided themselves on most, the quote culture, was possibly fracturing, and I think he felt like it needed to be addressed. Because like I said, this is a crossroads for them, and it would behoove him to do exactly what he did.
All right. Another big story right now is, again, the meeting with Loomis and staff members, not coaches, staff members, with John Gruden in Tampa when they played in Tampa, and the possibility of maybe him joining the staff. If he does, in what capacity do you think he will be? Will he be offensive coordinator, assistant head coach, again, backstop in case Allen fails and he can move into the head coaching position? A lot has to happen. There's a lawsuit against the NFL. You can't take back the emails that were put out there. That was damning as well. What do you think happens with Gruden, if anything?
Yeah, that's a hard one because this is. I understand the mutual interest in them talking. There are a lot of ties in that group.
He's as close to Peyton as you can get, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, they're very close. He's close to Derek Carr.
Right. Well, but I'm saying as a coach.
Yeah.
His style.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's some sort of connection to Mickey Loomis through Sean Payton over the years, and Dennis Allen. So there's a lot of reasons for them to consult, so to speak. I just have a hard time seeing how this plays out. Is John Gruden, two tenured head coach, Super Bowl champion head coach, does he want to be an offensive coordinator?
That's my point. Is he going to come in and be an assistant to Dennis Allen?
Right. And first of all, the lawsuit has to go away.
Right.
Okay, the NFL is not going to say, yeah, go ahead and hire the guy who's suing us.
Right. They're not going to do that.
Okay, so that has to go away. I'm sure that can be taken care of eventually. But if he gets hired, let's say John Gruden says, I just want to be back in the locker room. I want to be part of a team. I'm kind of doing this hand motions here. I want to be part of a team, and I'm willing to get back in it just as an offensive coordinator. I just want to be a part of it. He immediately, in the eyes of every single person observing the NFL, becomes the New Orleans Saints head coach in waiting.
Absolutely.
So how does that creates probably more complications than it solves offensive
Then why
issues.
do you meet with him?
Who knows? They're in Tampa for the game. They may have just been picking his brain on stuff. Or maybe they said, hey, John, would you want to be associate head coach for offensive whatever?
Yeah.
Just find out. Like you said, pick up the phone. Okay, well, let's see. Maybe he'll want to do it. I don't know.
That puts a tremendous amount of pressure and you think they got issues now? This is an organization that doesn't want controversy, okay?
Right.
I mean, they didn't want controversy back when it was Aaron Brooks and Jake Delhomme. Okay, they don't want controversy.
Well, that's right. I understand it because John Gruden is one of the best offensive minds of his generation. I just don't see how this plays out into a job responsibility for him in the organization.
I want to get through this last two really quickly. Kai Harley has been asked, Carolina's asked to interview Kai Harley. The Los Angeles Chargers have asked to interview Jeff Ireland. At this crossroads for this organization right now, can they afford to lose those two individuals in the front office?
Well, the short answer is no. Those are two valuable guys. Those would be two big losses if they were going to lose them. But, you know, it's all about how well you replace them. And, you know, everybody's replaceable if you make the right hire. So if they can find people who can do as good a job or better job to replace them, fine. But that's hard to do because they've both done very good jobs here. So I would think they would make a strong effort to keep both of them. But if they get offered general manager jobs elsewhere, they're gone. I don't see how they can prevent that.
For a guy like Mickey Loomis, who's been with the organization as long as he has, if there was ever a time to say it's time to either take make another position within the organization or to retire from the organization, not to lose these two guys that have been groomed to be the really kind of the next guy, what do you do then?
Oh well, he could certainly maintain the executive vice president
and handle the
title
jobs,
and then you have general manager for football ops, general manager for administration, or whatever they want to call it.
And probably hold on to those two guys.
Yeah, that would be the one way they can make it happen. You give them the title, you give them the money,
right.
You give them the power, that they would have.
Much like you did with David Griffin on the basketball side.
Right. So that is the one way I could see them making this happen, and if ever there were a time to do it, because the chances of them not doing that and both of those guys being back, I think, are pretty slim.
I think one or the other's gone, maybe both.
Yeah, I would
maybe
agree
both.
with that.
Maybe both. Now, there's a lot of talk about, we didn't even mention Harbaugh in all this conversation today. There's a lot of mention about Harbaugh going to the Chargers, and he has a relationship with Ireland, and that could be a tag team deal. All right, I want to get to the Pels. Okay. We got 10 minutes left in the program, and we went all on Saints and coaching today. All right. Pels are playing incredible basketball right now. 141-105 over, again, a weakened Warrior team that was injured last night. But look, you play in San Francisco, and that tough place to play, and you blow out the Warriors, that's saying something. They're at Denver on Friday. That's a Fox 8 game. That's one of the 12 Fox 8 games that they have. And then it's a quick turnaround. The NBA did them no favors to Dallas on a Saturday game, and then they got to go through time zones. It really, they didn't do them any favors on this particular deal. But then there's a Monday matinee with Martin Luther King matinee against Dallas as well. They are 23-15. They're 6th in the West. They're one game out of 4th. 7-3 in the last 10, 2 in a row. 11-4 since getting blown out by the Lakers in the in-season tournament. 7 in a row on the road. They're 11-7 overall on the road. 4-1, and what I have said is a defining January for this team. And so far they're answering them. The reason why I say that is, It's a tough schedule, and they got to take the next step. You don't want them peaking too early, but you've got to show that, again, you can show some consistency, and January is the time to do it. Back-to-back blowout wins on the road, the last 3 games on the road. 117-106 against Minnesota, 133-100 against the Kings, and last night's 141-105 blowout against the Warriors. They are playing incredible basketball right now. The unselfishness, the ball movement, the spacing that we're seeing, the defense. Again, they're playing really good ball. Talk about the Pels. Give me your thoughts on where they are, and has this team taken the next step?
Well, they look like they're ready to take the next step. You know, they had 4 really good games in a row, and then they got pushed around by the Clippers.
Right.
And they bounced back great with these last 2 games. So, you know, just when you think they're there, then they lay an egg for 1 game, and then they bounce back well. So they're getting there. And I'm not ready to declare that they've arrived, but they are getting there, and they got 3 months till the playoffs to get ready. 2 things I think that go into this. The one that gets overlooked is the defense. Because they're scoring so many points, it's easy to overlook the defense.
That creates the offense in a lot of cases.
In a lot of cases, that's why they're having the offensive success. You saw last night they had so many turnovers by the Warriors in the first quarter, and then they wound up hitting threes. So the defense, I think, is getting overlooked a little bit. And then on the offense, I think you mentioned the spacing and all these things that the new offense, I think, is kicking in now.
Yeah.
But
they got shooters now, so it works.
Right. And the key, I think, is that the big 3 are comfortable deferring to the role players.
Right.
The role players are responding.
Well, the unselfishness is the biggest change in this team.
Absolutely. And so James Borrego's adjustments to the spacing and such, I think, has been important. But then when you look at Williamson, Ingram, and McCollum was always sort of a distributor because of the position he plays. But Zion and B.I. are both very willing to let Trey Murphy take the open shot. Let Jordan Hawkins take the open shot.
B.I. is leading the team in assists.
Yeah. And these guys are rewarding their confidence by making shots.
Agreed.
And so it's made them an extremely difficult team to defend.
I'm with you. I think it's defining January. They got to stay healthy. But again, they've got some decisions to make before the trading deadline. You've got an expiring contract with Valanciunas, who's playing, again, I think his best ball of his career. And, of course, you got an expiring contract with Najee Marshall. But, again, they're over the cap right now. They're in the luxury tax threshold. They can make a move. Christopher Dotson wrote an article about this the other day by trading Kyra Lewis to get under the salary cap, to get under the luxury tax threshold. But, again, can you let a guy like Najee Marshall and Valanciunas walk with getting no compensation? Because it's going to be tough to re-sign those guys next year.
No, I don't think you can let Jonas Valanciunas walk.
I would agree with that. 100%.
You can't do that. Najee Marshall, you would not want to lose. Right. But if you have to lose one of the 2, he's the one.
He's the one, right? Because he's going to get big money next year. Or better, he's going to get more money maybe the Pels can afford.
Yeah, but if you can get rid of trade Kyra Lewis, get under the
salary cap,
under the
luxury tax threshold,
keep the other 2 guys, and then deal with the offseason in the offseason. I think that's the most likely way.
I would not tinker with this offense. I would not tinker with this roster.
No.
I would not trade anyone. I would not say you need to brand. I was one that was saying they needed to do that with Valanciunas. They need a big. I think he's playing great ball. All right, I want to get to LSU, and let's talk about Blake Baker. And let's talk about also, again, Bo Davis coming in on the defensive side of the ball.
2 good hires. Both are good coaches that they've proven elsewhere. Both have LSU ties. Both know how to recruit Louisiana. The thing that jumped out at me the most about those 2 was in the release they put out in hiring Bo Davis, Brian Kelly cited his player development ability. And that's the thing I think gets overlooked in this LSU defensive thing. You look at Mason Smith, who inexplicably is going to the NFL. Good luck to him. Sage Ryan and less heralded players coming into LSU. They either don't get better or their improvement is less than you would expect to see. Player development has been a huge issue for the LSU coaching staff under Brian Kelly, especially on defense. And it looks like they've identified that as an issue and they're trying to fix it with these hires, in addition to being position coach and coordinator in Baker's case. So I like the hires, and I like the fact that they seem to be addressing what I think is an overlooked issue.
Also, a lot of talk that Corey Raymond may be coming back as well.
That would be a good hire as well.
I think would be a good hire. Let's talk to Tulane. John Summerall's put his staff together. The majority of the staff coming over from Troy. There are some holdovers: Dan Rauscher, Carter Sheraton, Ron Green, J.J. McCleskey. Still no word on Slade Nagel. But your thoughts on what he has done thus far? Pardon me.
First of all, I would say that was an excellent hire. You don't always have a hiring process where there's a clear-cut, that's the guy.
Right.
We got to get him. John Summerall is that guy for Tulane for a variety of reasons. And I think he's done a good job of blending this staff so far, bringing in guys that he's worked with in Troy who have helped him be extremely successful, keeping guys who the players are comfortable with, who are good coaches, and maintaining some continuity for recruiting with holdovers from the staff. So I think he's kind of found the sweet spot there between what was here and what he had elsewhere and bringing them together.
By the way, Tulane signs in the transfer portal quarterback Ty Thompson. He is a 5-star out of Arizona, the number 10 prospect in Rivals 2021 class, 3-year backup at Oregon. LSU goes out last week and gets the top quarterback, the top running back, and the top receiver in the 2025 class. Both of these programs, again, continuing to sign. And I talked about this last week on the program. Georgia, Alabama, Texas, 1, 2, 3 in the 2024 class. LSU 8 to 11, depending on what service you're looking at. You can't compete in the SEC if you're going to be 8th to 11th. They rectified that for 2025. Now both LSU and Tulane have to be very, very vigilant in the transfer portal to be able to again fill some holes with losses of folks that have either moved on to the NFL or again have moved on to other universities.
No question about it. And LSU especially has to find some guys in the transfer portal have to do better than they've done previously. And the other thing is, I'm curious to see where Alabama winds up in the recruiting class when it's all said and done.
I do too, and I also am interested to see again what happens in this transfer portal now in May. It opens up May 1st again. Okay, after spring practice, how many Alabama players will bolt? Okay, or maybe players that we've seen again that decided that were, from Louisiana or from elsewhere that may bolt as well. That'll be interesting to see what happens there going forward. Les, thanks. Appreciate it, man. Great discussion today. Great debate. Again, rarely we disagree, but we do disagree a little bit on this. But I thought it was a great conversation, and I very much appreciate it. Tell folks once again how they can follow you on social media, how they can check out all your great written work as well.
Thanks, Eric. Book is Donkeys, Elephants, and Giraffes. Google it. CrescentCitySports.com. SaturdayDownSouth.com. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on X at Les_East, the forum formerly known as Twitter.
There you go. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you always.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Plenty of ways to catch our program now. Again, all you got is a QR code on your screen right now. Click on it. It'll take you right to my website, ericasher.com, WLAE-TV YouTube channel. I say it every week. Set your DVR for your favorite time slot, and you'll never miss the program. I'm on the radio weekdays 4 to 6 on 106.1 FM. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Anchor Spotify is where you can find our podcast. Also, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, our digital platforms. Free download for your smartphone or tablet. Take the show with you anywhere. I want to thank the underwriters who make this show possible, each and every one of those underwriters who have been with us. We appreciate them, and we appreciate, again, your support of our underwriters, again, to keep this program going. Also, our friends here at WLAE-TV who do a fantastic job producing our program. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Graffia, Alex Chacon, and the best director in the business, William Hill. For lessees, for the folks here at WLAE-TV, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Right now, it looks like Ed Daniels is going to be in that seat. Looking forward to that as well. Thanks to lessees. See you next week.